Kanye West, to pay over $400,000 in damages, he walks into a packed comedy club in West Hollywood, and the entire crowd rises to its feet. Kanye West, who can be losing in court on Tuesday and receiving a standing ovation on Sunday, a man who, even in the middle of a copyright trial, somehow finds a way to make a room full of lawyers and jurors burst into laughter. Let us start at the beginning of this week, inside a federal courtroom in Los Angeles. Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz Stadium is packed with 40,000 fans. Kanye West, or Ye as he now goes, is about to hold the first official listening party for his long-awaited album, Donda. It is the kind of event only Kanye can pull off. Part concert, part art installation, part spectacle. That night, he plays 15 songs in various stages of completion. One of them, an early version of what would eventually become Hurricane, features a 1-minute instrumental track built on guitar, bass, and keyboard, run through a crackling vinyl filter that gives it that signature West Coast hip-hop texture. The crowd goes wild. Hurricane becomes the most talked about song from the entire event. What the 40,000 fans in that stadium do not know, and what Ye's team may not have fully settled either, is that the backbone of that song comes from an unreleased demo track called MSD-PT2, composed by 4 producers: DJ Khalil, Sam Barsh, Dan Seif, and Josh Mees. The track had been shared with Ye's team during early production sessions, passed along through a producer. No deal had been finalized. 3 years later, those 4 producers filed a lawsuit through a business entity called Artist Revenue Advocates, LLC. They argued that their composition had been used publicly in front of tens of thousands of fans to generate millions of dollars in ticket sales, merchandise, and a $750,000 live streaming deal with Apple Music, all without their permission and without compensation. Ye's legal team pushed back immediately. They called it a shakedown. They argued that standard clearance procedures had been underway and that negotiations over splits and credits were still ongoing at the time of the event. His attorney, Eduardo Martorell, noted that the 4 musicians had eventually been credited as songwriters and registered for a 30% share of composition royalties during the course of the litigation. A judge had already narrowed the case significantly in February 2026, ruling that Artist Revenue Advocates only owned the master recording rights to MSD-PT2, not the composition rights. That decision stripped away the potentially more lucrative claims tied to the final released version of Hurricane, limiting the trial to the question of what was played at the 2021 listening party. That left one narrow but consequential question for the jury. Did Ye's team use an uncleared sample at that stadium event, and should they be held financially responsible for doing so? The trial opened in a Los Angeles federal courthouse. 6 days of testimony, legal arguments, and music industry detail followed. Ye took the stand personally, which itself was notable. According to reporting from Courthouse News Service and Rolling Stone, this was the first time he had taken a copyright dispute all the way to trial rather than settling it out of court, despite facing more than a dozen such cases over the course of his career. On the stand, he was measured. He maintained he had done nothing wrong. He testified that he prided himself on giving people what they deserve when it came to credits and royalties. He said his team had gone through the normal process to clear the sample. And then, in what felt like a window into how he genuinely sees the situation, he said something that stopped the room. "I feel like a lot of people try to take advantage of me," he told the court. "As I sit in this courtroom today, I just think people are trying to make more than they otherwise would, because it's me." It was a remarkable statement to make under oath in a federal courtroom. Whether you believe it or not, it tells you exactly how Ye processes moments like this, as a man who sees himself as a target, a prize to be taken, precisely because of who he is. Lead plaintiff attorney Irene Lee saw it differently. In her closing argument, she told the jury that Ye had knowingly removed the MSD-PT2 sample from Hurricane after the listening party, something Ye himself had admitted during testimony. She called it remarkable. She argued he had simply taken the sample, used it to generate millions in revenue, and then discarded it once the album was commercially released with recreated elements instead. There was no deal, no agreement, no license, and no clearance, she told the jury. She also made a point about long-term harm that hit differently. We never got a chance to send it to anybody else. No other artist will touch this once somebody like Ye touched it. On Tuesday, May 13, 2026, 8 jurors returned a unanimous verdict. Ye was personally found liable for $176,153. His company, Yeezy LLC, was ordered to pay the same amount. 2 additional business entities tied to his merchandising operations, Yeezy Supply and Mascot Holdings, were hit with $41,625 and $44,627 respectively. Combined, the total judgment came to $438,558. Britton Mons, the manager for Artist Revenue Advocates, called it a victory for working artists who typically lack the resources to go against someone like Ye, a megastar and celebrity. Ye's camp had a different reading of the outcome. A Yeezy spokesman released a statement. "This is a failed shakedown. 6 months ago, they wanted $30 million out of Ye." The moral of the story? There is a cost attached to thinking you can take advantage of Ye. The plaintiffs, for their part, are already planning to appeal the earlier ruling that dismissed the broader claims. Their attorney told Rolling Stone they intend to take the larger case to the Ninth Circuit, which could potentially bring far more significant damages back into play. For now, Ye is on the hook for $438,558. It is not a life-changing number for a man who once built a billion-dollar empire, but it represents something larger. A jury of 8 people looked at the facts and decided that the biggest artist in the world does not get to play by different rules. It happened on May 6, 2026, during Ye's testimony. The atmosphere in the courtroom was what you would expect. Formal, procedural, heavy with legal language about sample clearances and licensing documentation. Ye had spent much of his time on the stand, giving measured answers, maintaining what Billboard described as a calm and expressionless demeanor. Then his own attorney was walking him through his career accolades, establishing his credibility as a Grammy-winning artist. The attorney needed to reference the Grammy-winning collaboration between Ye and Jay-Z, a track from their 2011 joint album Watch the Throne. But in a courtroom setting, the actual title of that song is not something you just say out loud. So, the attorney referred to it by a courtroom-friendly substitute, Brothers in Paris. There was a pause, and then Ye, breaking the calm and expressionless facade his attorney had worked to maintain, looked up and asked with perfect comic timing, "What's the real name?" According to multiple reports citing people inside the courtroom, the gallery immediately broke into laughter. Ye himself joined in. For one brief moment, the tension of a federal copyright proceeding gave way to something completely unexpected. The moment faded quickly. Testimony returned to sampling documentation and clearance protocols. The legal machinery of the trial kept moving, but that one exchange captured something real about who Ye is and how he moves through the world. Someone who is, at his core, an artist, even when he is sitting in a place that has nothing to do with art. His sense of humor has always been part of his identity, even when that identity has been buried under years of controversy. The same instinct that made him one of the most quotable artists in hip-hop history. The one that gave us lines that felt so outrageous they had to be jokes, and then turned out to be completely sincere. That instinct showed up in a federal courtroom in Los Angeles, wearing it like a quiet badge. It was not a defense, it was not a strategy, it was just Kanye being Kanye, which, in 2026, is both his greatest asset and his most persistent complication. Just days before the trial even concluded, on Sunday, May 4th, 2026, something happened at the Comedy Store in West Hollywood that nobody expected, including, it seems, most of the people in the room. Dave Chappelle was there, running what turned out to be a warm-up set ahead of his scheduled headline performances at the Netflix Is a Joke comedy festival. The night's lineup was already stacked. Shane Gillis was there. Chris Rock was there. Louis C.K. was performing. It was, by any measure, a heavyweight night in a venue that has always attracted them. Phones were banned. What happened inside stayed inside, at least until TMZ got sources talking about it. Chappelle had finished his set and was hosting when he decided to bring out a surprise guest. He built to it with a single line that the crowd apparently found hilarious. "Kanye West has lost more money than I've ever made." Then Ye walked in. According to sources, the crowd went completely silent the moment he appeared, and then erupted. He walked through the audience, stopping to shake hands with fans near the stage, connecting with people in a way that felt genuine and unscripted. When he finally reached the stage and stood next to Chappelle, the room rose, every person standing, a full standing ovation that reportedly felt like it went on and on. Ye did not perform. He did not speak to the audience. He did not need to. His presence alone shifted the entire energy of the room. And then, still to the sound of applause, he and Chappelle walked off stage together. That moment carries more weight when you understand what it means for Chappelle to have extended that invitation. In February 2025, Ye had taken several very public shots at Chappelle during one of his anti-Semitic tirades on social media, claiming Chappelle was speaking for Jewish agendas while pretending to speak for Black people. It was the kind of attack that ends friendships in this industry. But Chappelle, who has always been one of the most complicated and fiercely independent voices in comedy, made a different choice. He brought Ye out anyway, whether that was forgiveness, pragmatism, solidarity, or something else entirely, only the two of them know. What everyone else saw was a packed room in Los Angeles welcoming Ye back like he had never left. This moment exists in sharp contrast to what is happening on the other side of the Atlantic. As All Hip Hop noted in their coverage, Ye has been banned from performing in the United Kingdom, and several of his European stadium dates have been canceled following years of anti-Semitic comments. In Los Angeles, he gets a standing ovation. In London, he cannot even get through the door. That contradiction is the story of Ye in 2026. Two realities, running parallel, never resolving. If you try to fit Kanye West into a simple narrative, the fallen genius, the canceled icon, the comeback artist, you will always come up short. He breaks every framework you try to put around him. He is genuinely brilliant and genuinely reckless. He is capable of making the most powerful music of his generation and the most destructive statements of any public figure in recent memory. He has lost billions, lost partnerships, lost the goodwill of enormous parts of his audience, and he keeps going. But so is that standing ovation. So is the laughter in the courtroom. So is Dave Chappelle choosing, in front of an audience full of the sharpest minds in comedy, to bring Ye out and let the room celebrate him. Whatever you think of Kanye West, and there are very few people left who do not have a strong opinion, the most honest thing you can say about him is this: he is still here, still making headlines, still capable of surprising you, still, somehow, commanding a room. Whether that is a triumph or a tragedy probably depends on who you are, what you value, and how much you are willing to hold both things at once. But the story is not over. The appeals are coming. The music is still being made. And somewhere in Los Angeles, there is probably another packed room waiting to see what he does next.